Right, I'm moving on to a summary section here. I'm trying to bring all the things together. So you've obviously been working on your strategy, technical SEO, you've looked at on-page SEO and content, you've thought about backlink building, citation. So these are all the classic things that are involved with an SEO campaign. And I want to suggest some things here to give you the best possible chance of maximising the effect of this. And this is relating to something called CTR, click-through, essentially, click-through rating. And this is something that is important to bear in mind because it will influence what Google does with your website. So just to summarise SEO, obviously SEO is a kind of build it and they will come situation. So you invest money and time, sometimes both, in something that could happen in the future. There's no guarantees in SEO, and it's definitely a roller coaster. So you can be tracking things, particularly on a daily basis. You'll see your rankings go up, then down, and then up, and some things are moving forward, and some things like it's quite exciting in some ways, but also worrying because you're investing time now for something that you hope and should happen in the future, but isn't guaranteed. Now, if you follow all the steps in the course, you should be very well placed. But I want to recommend some additional steps that I think will give your website the best chance it can to flourish and get the rankings as quick as possible. So, as we know, user experience is very important to Google, and there's a thread that hopefully runs through the whole course, which is about ensuring that you answer the question, you help Google fulfill their mission, you give them their users a good user experience, and as a result Google will reward you with higher rankings. That's the theory. And I want to talk about this idea of user signals. So we know it's Google's mission to satisfy search intent, and Google looks at your website, looks how people interact with your website, and takes a view on whether people like your website or not. So click-through rates is a measure that is really important to Google. So when your results come up on the search results in Google, the percentage of time that somebody clicks through after seeing that result is your click-through rates. And the higher the click-through rate, the better, because that suggests to Google that your website is more appealing to people. And if you have a low click-through rate, that's likely to dampen down your website rankings. And when you launch content newly, Google runs a number of different tests to look at click-through rates and time on page and all this sort of stuff. So it's important that when you do launch new content and your website, that you try and get as much traffic through the website as possible to help with these user signals. So one of them is click-through rate, another one's the bounce rate, and bounce rate is the percentage of visitors that land on your page and then just bounce straight off. Obviously, you want a low bounce rate so that people land on your page, have a look around, click on something else. Ideally, you don't want 99% of people just looking at your homepage and deciding they want to go elsewhere. Number of page views that you get across your website, and also individual sessions. Google's very interested in that, and how long people spend on the pages as well. So all of these things are metrics or signals that Google takes. So if your website is scoring badly on these areas after you've launched new content, Google will take a view that the content is not good and it's something that maybe that users don't like or don't want to interact with. So there's a bit of on one hand a virtuous circle here, and on the other hand a chicken and egg effect. The virtuous circle is if you get more traffic onto your website, particularly early on, Google sees that as a positive signal and then thinks, well, that content's good, popular, we'll rank it better, we'll test it and we'll put it up higher. But the chicken and egg effect is if you have a website that has very low traffic already, it can be hard for Google to see your website and then for you to get some of these positive user signals. So you can end up in a situation where you have a rut where things just don't change or don't change quickly. So this is to suggest some ideas for you on how to maximise positive user signals across your website in general, particularly when you launch some fresh content. So there's a bit of a list here which I'll go through. So first of all is use social media. So when you put some new content out, post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, etc. Try and encourage it to be clicked through from your users. So A lot of people will post things on Facebook, and I do it all the time as well, but why not also include a link to your website there too, to encourage people to go through. For some small business websites, you might be talking about 2 or 3 organic visits a day, that if you can get that to 6 or 7, you've doubled your traffic, and that Google will see that as a very positive sign. As I post links to new content on blogs, social media channels. This also encourages the content to be indexed faster, particularly, and I think that's linked back from YouTube, which obviously Google owned, or even Twitter is very good for indexing. You might consider using paid ads if you want to launch something particularly important and focus traffic to a cornerstone page, for example. So you could use Google pay-per-click, you could use Facebook ads, but again, if the traffic's landing on that site and then people are then looking around, it's a positive sign that Google is liking the content. When you just launch a new page, you could also consider embedding some links in the home page. That's going to tell Google that the page is important, because your home page is important, so that will send some authority through, and also hopefully some traffic as well, and get people using that site. So if you had like a blog, for example, you could have a latest news section on the front page of your home page, and that would then show the latest posts and give them a chance to get some clicks through, for example. Other ideas are, you can, if you've got a small group of trusted friends, if you want to really kind of boost things, you could just say, look, send this out to them, could you just click on this link and have a look around my site for a few minutes. That would be really helpful, and that might just be able to give you a little bit of a lift, which would be useful. If you wanted to show importance of new pages, you could add them to your header menu or your footer. These are all things that Google takes as positive signals. And this is an idea I've definitely used, which is using things like promotions, giveaways, or other kind of sharing activities that will encourage visits to your website. So again, it's easy to use Facebook and social media and not have anybody ever go onto your website, but just think, is there an opportunity to send somebody there if they want to register for I don't know, a lead magnet, a free guide to something in your niche that you wanted to share with people. Get them to go to your website if you can, if it's hosted there. If you're running a giveaway, can you embed the form on your website? Get the people onto your website. Don't isolate them from coming there. Other things you can consider as well, so for example, a login or landing pages or galleries or whatever. I mean, obviously I'm hosting this course on my own domain, and the fact that people are visiting here and spending time on it will be seen by Google and will be a positive SEO boost, so that's there as well. But do you have other things that are hosted within your website that could be in a similar sort of category? A little bit more advanced is you could also consider hosting content on subdirectories. So instead of having a subdomain like, I don't know, page.simonhogman.com, which is one of my subdomains, I could have simonhogman.com/page. And there's ways of working with your hosting system to install additional WordPress content or actually full installations within the subdirectory. So from Google's point of view, it looks like it's 1 mega website, but actually potentially could be three or 4. So if you had a gallery application that was WordPress based, you could actually embed it in a subdirectory. A little bit more technical, but certainly something that's effective. And all the other things of sharing content with local community groups, networking groups, business-to-business networking groups, all that sort of stuff. Just continue to think about ways that you can just have a drip of content, drip of visitors and user signals that Google will see and be able to take into consideration for your ranking factor. And I think this is one of the areas that I think can really give your site a boost and lift, provided you've got all the other things in place. Okay.